Dynasty startup season is in full swing. And if you're trying to get the best values in each round of your Dynasty startup draft, I have the right video here for you. Starting off with round one. At the end of the draft, you can get Amon-Ra St. Brown with the 11th overall pick in the first round, who is currently the wide receiver 4 in Sleepers ADP. Keep in mind, this is all Sleepers ADP, okay? My rankings, wide receiver 4, no matter who you draft in the first round, you're going to feel pretty confident about that player. But the fact that you can get Amon-Ra St. Brown, the 11th overall player at the turn, is pretty incredible. And let me remind you what he did this past year. 20.7 fantasy points per game, over 160 targets, over 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. He was 1 out of 5 wide receivers to score over 20 plus fantasy points. He was 5th in targets, 3rd in receptions, 3rd in yards, tied for 4th in touchdowns. Yards after the catch, he was 1st. It's pretty incredible what Amon-Ra St. Brown did this past year. And the fact that you can get one of my tier 1 wide receivers, cornerstone wide receivers at the 11th pick in your Dynasty startup is pretty incredible for me when you think of the value. Going into the second round at the quarterback position, I like to get my quarterbacks normally in the first, but if I can get my quarterback in the second round, there's some great value here, and that is Justin Herbert. 18 overall in Sleepers ADP. That means he is QB 10. He is my QB 9. Okay. I understand the concerns with this offense, right? Becoming a run-first offense here with Jim Harbaugh, because the history kind of shows that. From 2011 to 2014, we can see he did have a top 5 rushing offense, outside of 1 year, which was 2014. But if you really look at the quarterback play with Jim Harbaugh and the San Francisco 49ers back then, in that span for 2011 and 2014 with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, if you average out their fantasy finishes and fantasy points per game, Justin Herbert actually was significantly better than both of those quarterbacks in that span of those 4 years. 2011 to 2014, averaging QB 11, 16 fantasy points. That's pretty good for where you're potentially getting Justin Herbert right now in the second round. Let me tell you, Justin Herbert in his 4 years in the NFL currently has been averaging QB 9. Averaging 20 fantasy points per game in the last 4 years, okay? And remember, his rookie year, he was doing something phenomenal. 22.9 fantasy points per game. That was more than what we are just now drafting CJ Stroud as, okay? Keep that in mind. He didn't even finish the year, and he scored more fantasy points than Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Tua Tags, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, and scored 0.1 fantasy points than CJ Stroud. The fact that you can get a quarterback that has been a top 10 fantasy finish in the points per game at the 206 is criminal in my eyes. Going into the third round, getting my second quarterback for drafting Anthony Richardson in the early second. Why is Jaden Daniels going in the third round? Okay, if we compare both of these guys last season in college, you can see who on paper and on the field and what the numbers say, the stats say, who is the better passing quarterback. And this is where I want to bring it up here, okay? I believe in Anthony Richardson that he's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. He's going to be a guy that's going to win you games, no doubt about it. But in a rushing standpoint, I like to build my quarterbacks for the future, the long term, right? A guy that can give me overall everything. And Jaden Daniels right now is, from what we know from college, a phenomenal rushing quarterback like Anthony Richardson, but he's bringing the next level of a passing opportunity there with Jaden Daniels. Okay, and you can see and compare the completion percentage, 53 completion percentages versus 71 for Jaden Daniels. Not only that, look at the rushing upside for Jaden Daniels as well. 713 yards for Anthony Richardson in his last year in college. And then 1,250 yards Jaden Daniels was rushing at LSU. Back-to-back years for Jaden Daniels for rushing over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. This is pretty criminal that they're going a whole round apart. And the fact that Jaden Daniels is going to be linking up with Cliff Kingsbury, right? Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Ben Sinnott, right? Luke McCaffrey, who they just drafted, and all the rumors of potentially Brandon Ayuk going to the Washington Commanders, I think this is a phenomenal value to get your second quarterback in your dynasty startup. If you guys ever wondered how to get a dynasty team reviewed by Zach and myself, all you had to do is go to flogfantasy.com. But now we have a whole new feature. Our original feature is for you to sign up at the Flog Fantasy website, select that Mother Flocker tier, and you can get a dynasty team reviewed, and you get all the other perks that you see currently on your screen. But now we have a new feature for a lot of new people that the community, you guys, have been asking for. It's called the a la carte service. If you just wanted a one-off feature where you can just submit your dynasty team and that's all you wanted, that's fine. Go to the a la carte feature, make sure you select us on the Fantasyland tab, use that slider, okay, and then put all your dynasty team information. Make sure you look at your picks, any context or details that you want to talk about your dynasty team, and we can review your dynasty team as soon as the next live stream. Okay, so make sure you go to the Flog Fantasy website and check out all those features. Going into the fourth round here at the wide receiver position, Nico Collins, okay, 47th overall player on Sleeper, wide receiver 18 on Sleeper's ADP, my wide receiver 11. Yes, I am pretty high on Nico Collins. The fact that Nico Collins, according to Sleeper, is going at the 411 is pretty absurd to me. Okay, the community is skeptical about Nico because of the addition of Stephon Diggs, but I have 3 reasons why you should be drafting Nico Collins with confidence in your dynasty drafts here. The first one is the contract extension. Signed a 3-year, $72 million with $52 million guaranteed, and he doesn't have an out until 2027. He is making more money than DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman Jr., Calvin Ridley, and DJ Moore. Second is the quarterback play. He's clearly going to be locked up for CJ Stroud, who is a superstar quarterback that we saw only 1 year with the Houston Texans. The fact that CJ Stroud, who was a rookie, produced Nico Collins' best fantasy season is pretty incredible. Okay, Nico Collins had a career high of 17.4 fantasy points per game, over 1,200 yards, over 100 targets, 80 receptions, and 8 touchdowns. I mean, amongst wide receivers in 2023, you can see the yards per route run, 3.1. He was second amongst wide receivers. Missed tackles forced with 21. He was third. Nico Collins had his best year, and there's so much more to come. All right, going into the 5th round here at the tight end position, I normally don't like to draft tight ends early, but this year, the way the tight end's position is kind of falling, I'm loving the value here. That is Mark Andrews. According to Sleeper's ADP, 58th overall. He is tight end 7 in Sleeper's rankings. I'm flipping between tight end 3 and tight end 4 with Tolton Kincaid, but people are forgetting what Mark Andrews has done. And, you know, first of all, this past year in his career, which I'm going to be getting to. Let's talk about this year. Okay, he started the year off with an injury. He was playing with injuries all season. He missed week 1 and then played from weeks 12 to 11 before he, if I'm not mistaken, he fractured his leg, right? Weeks 2 to 11, caught 61 targets, over 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, averaging 13.5 fantasy points per game, was a tight end 4 within that span. During that span, he was averaging more fantasy points than Sam Laporta, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, okay? And he is still the #1 target on this offense. The Ravens got rid of OBJ, who didn't make an impact in 2023, had multiple opportunities to draft a wide receiver in a deep wide receiver class and didn't. Mark Andrews is clearly the #1 target. Then is Zay Flowers, and then it is Rashad Bateman. Let me also remind you what Mark Andrews has done in his career, okay? Mark Andrews has finished outside the top 10 only 1 time in his 6-year career on a points per game basis. Every other year, he's finished within the top 5. I mean, check it out. 13.5, 12.7, 17.7, 12.2, 13.8. He has been a force to reckon with there with Lamar Jackson, and that's going to continue with them not making the additions that we potentially thought. Maybe we thought that the Ravens were going to draft a Brian Thomas Jr. or get one of these wide receivers in the 2nd or 3rd round. That doesn't happen in this draft. They believe in Mark Andrews. They believe in Zay Flowers. And that's exactly why Mark Andrews is a phenomenal value in the 5th round. All right, wrapping it up here with our first running back off the board in the 6th round, Jonathan Brooks, who is 67th overall in Sleeper's ADP, and he is RB15. In my rankings, he is RB10. Jonathan Brooks excites me because I truly believe you're getting him at a discount currently. Drafted in the second round with the 46th pick to the Carolina Panthers, was the first running back off the board. And why does this excite me? Is because he's going to be plugged and played in a Dave Canellis offense, an offense who just had Rachaad White in Tampa Bay. And let me remind you what Rachaad White did in 2023. Over 270 attempts, just under 1,000 yards, 64 reception, 9 touchdowns, 15.8 fantasy points per game. He was 10th in the fantasy points per game. He finished fourth amongst running backs, fourth in receptions, ninth in targets, third in receiving yards, and third in attempts. Rachaad White was a feature point in this offense for Dave Canellis while he was in Tampa Bay. Jonathan Brooks, who tore his ACL in November, still getting drafted as the first running back off the board, going to Dave Canellis' offense. This is a phenomenal pick, because let's just say hypothetically, if Jonathan Brooks didn't tear his ACL, how high is he actually going in Dynasty startups? And I would comfortably say he's probably going another round or potentially round and a half higher than where we're seeing him currently as the 67th overall player in the 6th round. So this is a phenomenal value to get your first running back off the board. Guys, make sure you drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you want to see the second half. Maybe I can go to rounds 7 to 11 or 12, depending on how deep you guys want me to go in the second video here. But I appreciate each and every one of you, and as always, it's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh,
it's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.